Rents are soaring high. As a typical American millennial or Gen Z, if you've ever dreamed of purchasing a house with an average income, you might need to rethink, since you'll end up paying double for the amount of a house. Homeownership has long been considered a significant milestone for adulthood and the cornerstone of the American dream. But today, many dreams of owning a home or finding an inexpensive rental are slipping out of reach. The value of homes is rising nationwide, yet there are fewer homes available for purchase, creating fierce competition among those looking to purchase a home. In fact, it only gets worse when middle-class Americans are increasingly competing with higher income buyers for a smaller supply of homes, pushing the dream of owning a house far beyond their financial capabilities. Housing has remained a difficulty for both purchasers and renters alike, as inflation, the price of gasoline, and other increasing expenses are straining people's wallets. According to information gathered from the Federal Reserve of St. Louis, the median home price increased by more than 15% in prior years. Renters also experienced similar hardships. Redfin reports that while rents increased by an average of 15% from a year earlier in May, the increase was more than double in some locations, including Austin, Nashville, and Seattle. On one end, affording housing is getting more and more difficult as a result of all of this. Even if it appears that this has gotten worse recently, many people have been unable to purchase homes or find affordable accommodation due to a decade-long rise in property prices. Number 1, real estate prices. The press has been reporting for a few months what our friends and neighbors have been talking about since last year: surging real estate prices and the near impossibility of obtaining appropriate financing due to rising mortgage rates. But what connection does the market for rental homes have with these price hikes? Let's review the pandemic years once more. Interest rates were reduced to boost the economy after the COVID-19 virus epidemic. While the pandemic reduced the market for renting property, many Americans have now decided to purchase homes as a result of the substantial reduction in interest rates. This is because more people choose to acquire real estate as a result of the low interest rates that made financing a home cheaper. The pandemic has passed its peak, and the tide has changed. Many Americans are looking for housing, as was previously mentioned, but many find themselves unexpectedly unable to afford to buy their own house. This is a result of both skyrocketing mortgage interest rates and soaring real estate prices. Mortgage rates have increased during the past year, going from slightly under 3% to 5.8% in September 2022. Number 2, supply shortages. The high demand, as well as the limited supply, are major factors in a rent increase. And for now, this is quite constrained. The National Association of Realtors Research details how many potential buyers have been driven from the housing market since 2020. One's first quarter, over 9 million people were ejected from the housing market in total. In the same period, only 330,000 more rental homes were added to the market nationwide. How is that even possible? The main theme of the solution is supply, or more specifically, a lack of supply. 2 years after the pandemic began, the world is still dealing with supply chain problems, material shortages, and a labor deficit, which results in a severe dearth of affordable homes. Not all building materials are produced in the United States. They frequently need to be imported. Because of inflation and trade agreements, the cost of some imports has fluctuated throughout time. This has caused construction expenses to rise in the housing sector. The cost of several materials has increased due to rising costs and customs fees. Therefore, new construction activity has slowed down due to the unstable market. New construction activity is dropping along with lending for new structures. Rent has increased dramatically as a result of the historically low supply of units. Landlords are aware that tenants are having trouble obtaining accommodation, which has resulted in lower vacancy rates, leading to increased rents. Number 3, the COVID-19 pandemic. Many people, especially young adults, stayed with their parents in 2020 due to online university lectures or a lack of employment, which prevented them from entering the property market.
Those who had already left returned to their childhood residences. Fearing lockdowns, friends and families came together and moved under one roof. As a result, demand fell drastically, and a brief haven for all those still looking for housing. Their options for affordable rental accommodation suddenly expanded, and they could benefit from deals as landlords scrambled to fill their vacant apartments. In 2020, many who lived with their family or friends now prefer to live independently. This is particularly true for Gen Z people who are self-assured enough to move away from their parents' homes and settle in college towns. As a result, between January 2020 and January 2022, the proportion of young people living independently practically doubled. The overall number of families has increased at an unprecedented rate as a result of this. However, not just young individuals are looking for rental housing. Families are swarming the home market as well.
They want more room, and being able to work remotely enables them to relocate to previously thought of as somewhat cheap areas, particularly mid-sized ones in the Southwest and Sunbelt. But compared to the major cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York City, rents are going up here much more quickly.
The COVID-19 epidemic is largely to blame for these changes in the housing sector, specifically for the unusually high demand for rental accommodation. However, high estate costs and mortgage rates are other factors contributing to the increase in demand for rentals. Number 4, wages. The cost of houses has been increasing since the 2012 housing slump bottom, despite the fact that inflation is a current influence. Many people find themselves unable to buy a property since their income hasn't kept pace with hyperinflation and the overall spike in prices. According to a National Association of Realtors estimate from February 2022, a family earning between $75,000 and $100,000 could afford to buy roughly half of the current real estate listings. According to census data examined by the Federal Reserve, the median household earnings in 2020 was $67,521. People in that income range had limited alternatives because they could only afford 34% of the housing stock that was available. Only 35% of white Americans, 25% of Hispanic Americans, and 20% of Black Americans have annual incomes of $100,000 or more. Many prospective house buyers are effectively left with two choices amid the soaring prices: rent where they are or move elsewhere. Even more modest residences are out of reach for lower paid workers. In order to afford a basic 2-bedroom apartment in 2021, a worker would need to make $24.90 per hour. No employee in the United States is able to afford a basic 2-bedroom rental property at fair market rent, even though certain states and towns have minimum salaries greater than the federal minimum of $7.25 per hour. This is true regardless of where they live in the country. The biggest factor affecting the price of housing is supply. According to Freddie Mac, the United States needs an additional 3.8 million units in order to meet the present demand. According to a recent assessment by Up for Growth, a nonprofit organization dedicated to addressing the housing shortage, Washington, for example, was nearly 156,000 units short of what it required in 2019. Number 5, inflation. The average cost of a house in the US in the first quarter of 2020 was $369,800. The median home price increased to $423,600 in the first quarter of 2022. The Federal Reserve started to boost interest rates as inflation increased, with the Consumer Price Index reaching a 9% year-over-year rise in June, the largest in more than 40 years. As a result, mortgage rates have increased as a result of inflation and interest rates. The outcome ended up being a sharp increase in cost. In June of this year, the average rate on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage increased to 5.52% from 2.8% in June of last year. Due to this, there has been a small decline in both housing demand and prices, but any purchase price savings could be lost when taking mortgage rates into account, which, at the current rate, would nearly double the cost of a $200,000 mortgage over a 30-year period.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you click that like button and subscribe button. But most importantly, don't forget to click that bell icon to be notified when a new video is uploaded. Also, feel free to leave a remark if you have any recommendations for videos. From No Cap Capitalist, have a great day.